there, everybody. It's Wednesday. That's Hump Day, which means it's time for Humpday Hangout with Chris and Steve. So we'll say hello to Steve. Let's see if I can get them to work here. Oh, I got the wrong window layout in my Discord. I got the empty one. Why did it decide to flip you over? That's interesting.
I don't know. I don't see what you see.
Yeah, it's weird.
You still hear me though, right?
I hear you. I see you too, but I got my window selection on the wrong window here. Basically, is what I'm saying.
What? So it's top to bottom instead of side to side?
No, you're on the wrong side.
Oh no, I'm on the right side instead of the left side or something like that.
Yeah, so I have to adjust the setup here. Let me just.
Oh my God, that just sounds like like the show is just going to to shit if that's the case. I don't know how you'll recover from that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either, but.
In case you don't know, I'm completely fucking with you. But
I'm fully aware of that. I'm fully aware of that. Yeah, I got to change my crop filters here. Set this one to 0.
Gotta love OBS when it works.
Yeah, well, if you know what you're doing, it's not too bad, right?
Oh, well, geez, if that's the case.
And I just got to crop a whole bunch on the right. Something probably like 300. Get you far enough over. It's still not far enough. Wow. Coming over. Let's go to 400.
Well, here, let's not worry about that right now, and let's just talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty to talk about, right?
No, there sure is. I mean, for those of you listening, today is November 4th, and how could you not ignore the biggest story in town? That's the U.S. presidential election, which there's still no declared winner or anything like that. Probably won't be for quite some time. And as it happens to be right about now, I checked about 10 minutes ago or so, and I think Biden's at 253 and Trump's at 213. But that means nothing because of the amount of votes that still need to come in and everything like that.
Right.
And we all know too that things are set up that basically, Trump will contest no matter what. But it's just it's shocking to see just how close the race is. At least as a Canadian, I just can't believe how many people have voted for him still. Especially with everything that's been going on and how the pandemic has been handled. Everything, I'm quite surprised, but he seems to be the master of surprises when it comes to that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, actually, I'm not only surprised, but I'm sincerely disheartened, I gotta
say. Well, yeah, how could you not be, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I was holding on to a little bit of hope, that there's still a majority of people in the U.S. that have some common sense that wouldn't stand for this kind of crap. But as it turns out, it's actually true. More than half of the Americans are actually assholes. As much as it pains me to admit that, but it's no longer. You can no longer deny that. The way this election has been going, that's just undeniable at this point.
It's just funny to hear other people talk about, like those that are more Trump supporters, so say in Canada itself, and some of their logic behind things and everything like that. And I'm thinking about one particular person I happen to work with, whatever, for this, that happens to have, he really gets into the conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and it just leaves me scratching my head sometimes. I mean, he's a great guy, and despite all that, it's not like I'm not going to be friends with him because he supports one politician over another. That's not who I am, anyways, just like if you're a Trump supporter, that doesn't mean I hate you or anything like that. I mean, I just don't agree with your decision, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't invite a spirited debate about, the pros and cons.
I used to be like that.
It's going to be the same thing with Biden, too, or with Trudeau, or whoever's in power in whatever country.
Yeah, not entirely, though. I used to think like that, but I've come to realize that a large majority of Trump supporters are completely not faced by reality, by facts, by rational arguments, or anything like that. So you simply cannot have that kind of a discourse with them. It's not possible. It's like playing chess with a pigeon, that old analogy, right? No matter how well you play, at the end of the game, the chess is going to knock over the pieces, run around the board, declare victory, and shit all over the board.
Yeah.
You know?
It is very tough to tell, too, really just how things are. Not only not living in the U.S., of course, but also because of the media outlets and how they are, kind of leaning as far as, their political biases and stuff like that, which we've talked about on the show before as far as going to outside news sources and stuff like that to try and get a better picture. But it's kind of like wading through a minefield, in a lot of respects to kind of figure out, what is true and what's not. And I mean, that's just the age that we live in, a lot of respects, as far as that's concerned. And these kind of theories and stuff like that have been really, really prevalent in the past few months as far as when it comes to our health and COVID or, multiple other things, even going into other social movements like Black Lives Matter and such, and, the whole police brutality thing against minorities, which is, a problem in Canada as well, as, we need to obviously address.
Well, I mean,
but
things
it's
like
just
that,
strange.
Well, things like that, are a problem with human nature in general, and they just kind of manifest differently depending on the landscape, the system, and the environment that you encounter. Like in some societies, it's not as big of a problem, for example, because not as many people run around armed, so you have much lower number of fatalities based on crimes or on robberies. Because robberies won't happen with a gun, but with a club or a knife or whatever, right? So problems manifest differently in different societies and different environments, but at the core of the problem is the same. It's human nature. Right?
Yeah,
It's
it's really a shame as far as that's concerned. And so, like, I was just before I came on, I was talking with my wife too, as far as just how things are going in the schools and stuff like that. And the one thing that we still kind of I always seem to come back to is how hesitant we are to adopt best practices from other countries that have had a better success rate at battling something like COVID or anything else for that matter. There always seems to be a lot of resistance as far as when that's concerned, and it has to be our idea or something like that, and that we can't take something that we see is a really good idea and just kind of make it our own, so to speak. Now, whether that's plagiarism or whether that's just making it for our own purposes, whatever the case. I mean, if there's a great idea, I would think that we could put our pride and ego aside and just recognize that it's a great idea. I don't know. Maybe I'm off on that. And maybe I have too much faith in humanity when it comes to that.
Yeah, you probably do. Unfortunately, I mean, because in theory you're absolutely right. That's the way it should work. But again, human nature comes into the play and screws everything up, right? As always.
Yeah, I suppose. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, on the other side, there is moments where human nature, can show its good side. When people are helping each other out and.
Yeah. Well, but and you bring up a great point, Chris. And so this is something that I came across actually a little while ago. I'm going to share my screen here, and.
Let's see if that works with my layout here.
Well, we'll find out. So I don't know if you actually see this or not. Do you see Google Chrome right now that's live?
No, plus the layout here shifted again and you're no longer on screen. Only your chin is on screen now.
Okay, all right. So you can't see anything then right now?
Now I can see it, but our viewers can't. That's what I'm saying. I've got three screen layout now on my
Yeah,
laptop.
well, me too. But as long as you can see the title of
But
what we're
I
talking
can
about
see it,
here.
but our viewers can't see it because I'm grabbing a certain part of the screen, and now the layout has shifted
okay.
around, so. It's
Okay,
no
well,
longer.
hey, leave it to not doing a tech rehearsal, folks, as far as this is concerned. But
Yeah.
what I am referring to here is there is a
Can you,
excellent article that came out on.
Can you turn your screen share off first?
Yeah, yep.
I ran into
Sorry.
a problem.
So, yeah, because I'm running off my laptop right now and don't have the usual setup, so I don't have the flexibility right now.
Very true.
But
Very true.
if I would have known, I could have set up the website earlier, and we could have I could have brought it in through OBS.
Okay, well, don't worry. That's my own fault then, folks. But
Hey,
back to the content at hand before we get out of character here as far as talking about the tech. But there is an excellent article that was on CBC recently about a Toronto carpenter who has been building insulated mobile shelters for homeless people in the winter. And he's been doing this, and he's been getting some funding and stuff like that, but through like a GoFundMe kind of page and stuff. I believe his name is, and I apologize if I get this wrong, Khalil Siegbright is his name, out in Scarborough, I believe. And these structures cost about $1,000 in new material, and takes Khalil about 8 hours to construct it all. And he's been giving them away for free, which is even more amazing.
Do you have a URL for that webpage?
Yep, I can send it to you. Where do you want me to send it to you?
Send it to me on Facebook chat.
Yeah, no problem. So, but that's just amazing, I find, as far as that's concerned. And like I said, it kind of restores my faith in humanity a little bit. That's for sure. And there you go, Chris. It's now in your message.
Okay.
So he's raised about $2,000 or so, I guess, to be able to do this. Through his GoFundMe and stuff like that. But the cool thing about these shelters is that he says that basically the people can keep warm with their own body heat in temperatures as low as -20 Celsius.
Really?
Which is just absolutely fantastic. Because, I mean, the other thing to remember this time around, too, is that homeless shelters and stuff like that in the time of a pandemic is even tougher when it comes to the fact that there's only limited spots due to the fact that, we have to socially distance.
Right.
So
Okay. Let me
that's a
see.
huge-
I think
huge
I found the website. Let me just pull it up here for our viewers, and I need to interact with it so I can kind of. Where are we at here? Interact.
So-
Toronto. Let's scroll down here.
Now, there's a mention here too that the city offers close to about 6,800 shelter beds, and there are plans to open up another 560 additional spaces this winter, which is fantastic for the city of Toronto to do that, and obviously to recognize that there is a problem and that they are trying to get people indoors, which is definitely a top priority, But I just love this, and this is a cause that I think that a lot of us could really get behind, and especially when you look at the fact that people in our industry have been very, very close to almost being on the street themselves as far as this is concerned. So this is something that is quite exciting as far as that's concerned, and just the fact that this person is not looking to get any financial gain out of it, and is doing it because he feels it's the right thing to do. I have great admiration for this guy. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I have to agree. That is a very noble cause. So there, yeah. Sorry, I was just kind of clicking around the websites here, trying to get all this stuff figured out with one screen. It's a little tricky if you're used to three.
I get it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's just what can I say? We need more people like this guy. That's for sure.
Yeah,
We
well,
need more people like this guy.
well, there's, to speak of people like that guy, there's also an organization called Techs in Need, or TIN for short,
Yes.
and they've been raising money and distributing money and helping people in techs and hands that are financially suffering. I even recently got some money from them actually, out of the blue. I got an email transfer because somebody let them know that I was a little tight, so I was pretty overwhelmed by that. So let me bring up their website here because I have that ready, and they currently have got a GoFundMe that they're using to raise money that they just distribute then to people that need it, and I think it's a well-worthy cause. It's something that definitely people should have a look at, and yeah, if you can afford to help out, donate, go to their Facebook page. That'll lead you to their website and to their GoFundMe page. And I will post links in the description of this video. But yeah, definitely a worthy cause, and something that should be mentioned here, which I hereby did.
No, I see it on the screen here in YouTube, so I could see all the different people that have donated and stuff like that. Quite a few of these people I know personally too, which is fantastic. It's great to see support within our community as far as this is concerned. It's one of those things that could very easily be pushed aside in society, and a lot of us feel that way as far as live events and stuff like that. And it would, we definitely need all the support that we need to get our brothers and sisters through at this point. And it's just getting more and more brutal as far as that's concerned. Some things are starting to come back a little bit, but a lot of it is still in the virtual world. We've seen a few live things here and there, but they're very few and far between in comparison to the volume that we've had in the past.
Very true. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is an unprecedented kind of emergency for our industry as well, right? Still, there's no plan for reopening or any kind of ideas or tiered plan or whatever, right? It's just like nobody's even addressed it really on the big stage of things.
I can speak that from a couple clients that I've dealt with, that their thoughts are maybe summertime, as far as in Canada, to be able to maybe possibly restart some things. But it all depends too. If it's a strictly Canadian company, that's one thing. But if they are just part of an American counterpart and they're expecting to have attendees coming up from the States as well, that is where it kind of draws the line as far as, well, if that's the case, then maybe we'll just do it for our Canadian participants or attendees, but not as a whole, which that sucks, because it's just drawing more division lines in the sand, and that's not what we need right now, obviously. But what else can you really do as long as the border remains closed? And we're in the second wave now of the pandemic, and at the moment, until there's a vaccine, it doesn't look like it's slowing down any. And but at the same time, we really can't return back to lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through this, and the dilemma is obvious, so regurgitating that is not going to get us ahead. I think we need to focus in this stage on like projects like Techs in Need and this kind of things that Khalil's doing, where we figure out how we help the people that are in the emergency right now make it through, because there's clearly no way we can largely affect how long this emergency will last, besides doing our own part in maintaining like social distancing and mask wearing and all the safety precautions that we can possibly take. But in the big scale of things, it's not in our hands when the industries will come back. So all we can do is kind of try to help people and venues and companies survive until that time comes. And
I would like to employ our listeners too that if you know of a good cause that is related to our industry, and we haven't mentioned it here, to please get in contact with us, or even just comment on YouTube on this video, and let us know so that we can promote those as well. Because at this point, folks, it shouldn't be about competition as far as one cause over another or one website over another. As long as it's all going to the same general cause for what we're trying to do here, that's what's really important. So if you know of something like that, please let us know so we can help out and get the word out too.
Yep. And I would also tell people, you can email us at info@grumpyroadie.com. You can visit our Discord server. And go to our Facebook page, on YouTube. And if you actually subscribe and click the notification button on the YouTube channel, then you'll get notified whenever we post a video. If you join our Discord, that's where we're going to have updates when there's a new video online. That's where you can kind of leave suggestions, chat with other people as well, do all those fun things. Yeah, that was it as far as our public service announcement section goes.
That just means you don't have to do it at the end of the show. That's all.
Yeah, right. But whatever.
Let's face it, we know that's going to happen at the end of the show anyways.
Well, but since we don't have a sponsor, right, we got to fill in that sponsor segment, right?
Yeah, no, I hear that. So, yeah. But, so other than that, I mean, I don't know. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of things happening or whatever around the world in the past week and everything, and it's just hard to hear other stories other than what's happening in the U.S. right now, which is really unfortunate. I mean, there's been
that's the thing,
was there a typhoon or something like that in, where was it?
Well, there was, for example, a terrorist attack in Vienna, Austria. That was pretty severe.
Yes,
right.
There was a beheading in France as well, I believe. That was kind of related to the Charlie Hebdo things that have been happening over there. That happened like 4 or 5 years ago now, as far as the attacks and everything. And so, yeah, it's really unfortunate as far as that's concerned. I don't really know the whole story of that, but man, we got to get past past the idea that violence is the answer. And I don't care what what your beliefs or your religion is or anything like that, but really, is violence the answer? I mean, granted, in the short term, when you're mad at somebody, sure, it might feel really great to give them a poke in the chops or something like that. But as far as trying to further your cause or anything like that, hurting innocent people, I think no matter what you do and what you believe in, everybody loses at the end.
Yeah, that is quite true.
Yeah. So, anyways, wow, I'm really preachy today. What's up with that?
I don't know. I was going to ask you the same thing. It's like, you've been watching too many news broadcasts.
You know what? Like, sometimes I just got to turn that shit off. Because, I only watched a little bit of the events from yesterday, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't, and it just, I had other things on my mind too, as far as just work and other things, but it's just, enough is enough already. It's kind of what you get down to it. It's just such a barrage of information just coming at you. And that's why I've stayed off Facebook for the past few days too, because you can't go anywhere near that stuff without you seeing something political or something else. Otherwise, it's just upsetting in one way or another.
Very true.
So I don't know. It's I was gonna say the only thing that I noticed was when I was out grocery shopping the other day is that there was already Christmas decorations out, and how goddamn depressing is that?
Yeah, that's true. I don't really do Christmas, so I don't really mind, but I hear you.
Well, just for the fact, it always bugs me that stores will do that, before Halloween's even happened. It's like, come on, why can't you just give Halloween a chance? You're maybe there's no other holiday that Halloween kind of steps on, or the maybe in the retail world, maybe back to school or something like that, right? But still, it's just kind of like I don't want to see tinsel and stuff like that in a store, when we haven't even physically had Halloween yet. Like, come on, you know, give Halloween the respect it deserves. That's all I'm saying, because it's fun, and honestly, like fun's not exactly the word I think of for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's more obligation.
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of bad to say, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, I just found another website that was posted in Canada Production Professionals about the Benevolent Fund, Unison Benevolent Fund, financial assistance for musicians and people in the arts. Yeah, and let me just throw that web page up as well.
Sure.
There we go. Scroll through that. Leave it up here for a second. So yeah, it's a response thing where you can apply for assistance and get like an emergency payment. Qualified applicants to meet basic living needs.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it does not like receiving any kind of government funding does not affect your eligibility for this kind of emergency relief. Contact them at assistance@unisonfund.ca. That's assistance@unison. That's Uniform November India Sierra Oscar November Foxtrot Uniform November Delta.ca. And check out and see if you're qualified, if you're eligible. Maybe you might be able just the thing that you need to make it through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one thing I gotta say I've been a little bit disappointed about is there was supposed to be the whole idea of rent relief that was supposed to kind of happen, and never really materialized. It sounds like for the majority of renters, across North America and probably other countries too, as far as trying to give them a break, and while the pandemic was happening, and while I understand that they have their own costs and stuff like that, it's man, like I don't know how you can possibly do that and then expect to like kick somebody out and then bring somebody in if you're just going to consistently do that, because eventually the well will run dry, as far as that's concerned. And then you're ending and the shitty part as a renter too, like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also kind of damages your reputation as far as applying to live at other places, right? As far as finding out why you left your last place, and that would be why, all because of the pandemic. I'd like to hear some stories from our viewers and stuff like that about that. I know that there's been a few people that have moved out of the city because of that. To go to a place that has cheaper rent and stuff and lower cost of living. But there hasn't been much talk about it, and I'm surprised that it hasn't gotten more attention.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, what are people doing? There's not nearly as many jobs out there to to pick up the slack, whether it's in the virtual world or anywhere else for that matter, to basically keep all the people that were doing live events employed and and receiving money. So how's that working? As a homeowner, I was able to defer my mortgage for 6 months, but luckily I was able to not have to look into that once I was told that I was coming back. But for a while there, I was sweating it pretty hard because the answers I was getting from my bank weren't exactly very great. It wasn't exactly making me feel all fuzzy inside, shall we say?
Yeah.
So it's just Jesus,
Well,
something's gotta give with that, and I just know that there's gotta be some people that are falling through the cracks on that, and that really uh, it really sucks. That's all I can say.
No, you're absolutely right. I can't disagree with you on any of that. Like, at this point, I've really almost resigned. Even trying to fight for betterment in humanity, in any kind of way, because it's in most cases futile. Because the people that you encounter problems with are people that are not open to any kind of rational approach. They're not open to new information that potentially will influence their confirmation bias that they've got going.
Well,
They're not willing to listen to learn. They only listen to respond with basically preset, prefabricated responses, and there is no way you could ever reach these people. So there is no point in even trying. It's a waste of energy and it just creates frustration. At this point, I just write them off. I literally said, you know what? You just can't be helped. I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you. I pity you. But if you're not willing to learn or to adopt new facts, new ways of seeing, if you're not able or willing to integrate new information into your model of the world or whatever we're specifically be focusing on at the time, then there is no point in us interacting in any way, shape, or form whatsoever, because no progress can come out of it.
Still believe though that that doesn't mean that should restrict our efforts to try and be better.
No, of course.
It doesn't mean that people are going to be responsive in the right way to it, and they may shoot it down, and maybe that's who they are, and those are the people, like you mentioned, that they can't be reached, right? But that doesn't mean that the things that we're talking about here and things that we believe can be better for humanity or just that whole aren't worth fighting for. And and that's something that I think has been really, really evident in the since the pandemic, that there are definitely things worth fighting for.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of worth fighting for. I just don't see the fight going through trying to convince those people.
Agreed.
It's like it's pointless. Their opinions will not be changed, swayed, or altered in any way from what their preset beliefs are. Period. That's just the way it is. But they're not necessarily the only way to approach betterment. You can, at least that's my approach, lead by example. Try to be a better person, and sometimes it works. Some people around you recognize it and appreciate it. Sometimes you don't. It doesn't work, and your efforts fall on deaf ears. But all you can do is kind of hold up the flag, and keep chugging away at it.
Yeah, and kindness and support are two of those things that are not in short supply, I would say. Well, sometimes they are in short supply, but that's why it's important for those that maybe you do work with or you have worked with in the past. Just pay them a compliment or whatever, and say, or talk about that one time that you were on this one gig and just how amazing it was and how they pulled it off, or whatever the case, and because one thing that happens a lot, unfortunately, in our industry is that we only hear about the bad shit, as far as, oh, so and so fucked this up or whatever, and you don't hear as much about the praises and stuff like that, as far as somebody figuring something out or doing something really well. I don't know. And I'm not saying that just because I'm the one that always fucks up, right? and I know that I do, right? But still, just as a whole, that's been a pervasive, attitude within the industry that I hope, is willing to change anyways. It also sometimes just depends on the individuals that you're working with, as far as that's concerned. But I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, though. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right. But you're right. It depends on the individual. There's no way you can generalize that kind of a thing. I think, and it would be a trap to attempt to do so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know?
And there's always going to be some people that you'll never make happy, no matter what,
Yeah.
because they are not wired that way. Period. You
Yeah.
know, like the idea of striving for perfection with a person like that, it just will never happen because and you know it might be just because of completely external influences.
Well, the thing
Like
is,
they're just not happy in their lives or something like that. You could do the most amazing job in the world and it wouldn't matter.
yeah, but here's the trick. At least that's the way I deal with that. It's the question of whose definition of perfection and achievement are we using? Theirs or mine?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
No, you're absolutely
if
right about that.
if I take on a task, a challenge, a show, whatever it may be, and I have set for myself a goal that I want to achieve to do this event, show, whatever, then I have an expectation of the quality standard that I am able to achieve based on, let's say, the equipment I have, the staff I have, the venue, and all those circumstances, right? But knowing that, I have a certain expectation to myself of how good a job I can do at best, right? And if I achieve that, if I pull the job off to that standard, it doesn't matter if the client had false expectations at the end of the day, or he wanted things or imagined things, that we didn't achieve. That's not. I don't find that detrimental, because
No, I would agree with that.
it's like it's like I'm not going to be disheartened that we didn't make him happy. That's not the thing, right? I got hired to do a very deliberate job, and if I did that job properly, and to the best of my abilities and skill, then I'm okay with that, even if the client may not be happy. He
Once
hired
again,
me.
happiness is a tough thing to gauge. Period. In the bigger spectrum of things.
Well,
Let's just face it.
It's an emotion, and you can't quantify emotion, so that's the
Exactly.
key.
It's like they're saying there's a race. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of what I was alluding to. Is basically, oh, he dropped out real quick. He'll probably be back again. But until then, I'll have to do with my face. Yeah, so what I was alluding to basically is that it's not about making somebody happy, that should be the goal. But it's about achieving what you set out to do, that should be the goal. And if you achieve that, I would say you're good to go. And I think he's coming back. So let's see.
Hey, there you go.
Ah, okay, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, as I was saying just before we got separated, the goal is not to make somebody happy, because as we just defined, happiness can't be measured or discovered, so it's an unachievable goal under any definition because it can't be defined. You can't define
Absolutely.
happiness, so you can't achieve that thing. So trying to achieve that as your primary goal when you set out, I find personally it's futile, and you're setting yourself up for failure, because it's just by definition impossible to do. You should, at least I set out to achieve the job that I got hired to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like to put on a show, to do a production, a podcast, a web stream, whatever it may be, right? I'm not hired to make the client happy. If his happiness is a result of me doing my job right, good for him or her or them or they, whatever, But I didn't get hired to make him happy. I'm not a happiness engineer.
I like that.
Yeah, well, that's the way you have to think of it. Obviously, it's a desired outcome that the client is happy because we did our job well.
Yeah.
But I'm not defining my success by his happiness. I define success by have we completed the mission we set out to do.
No, I completely agree with that. And let's face it, happiness is something that, one has to achieve on their own in some respects. right?
Exactly.
To be able to be good with how they are and how they're living and such. You can't put that on other people. To make yourself happy, you have to find a way to do that yourself, whether that's in your job or just in your personal life. And
Absolutely.
that's just the way it is. If you rely on other people to always do that, you'll always be disappointed. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the same thing I was saying. Like if your disappointment or success is linked to somebody else's happiness, you're fucked.
Yeah, no,
I,
absolutely.
Either way,
And
you just can't
I think
win.
I think we've all gone through that though, and had to learn that lesson.
Of course.
It's and that's the thing is there's no easy way to learn that.
No,
You have to go through it.
and they don't teach you that in school either.
No, they really do not. And
Fuck.
that's something that okay. Granted, you take a look at some of the initiatives out there now, and at least mental health is a blip on the radar, shall we say, in comparison to when you and I grew up, Chris,
Yeah.
and that wasn't even mentioned. I don't know. I can't speak for your schooling in Germany, but at least here in Canada, there was never any mention about anything to do with mental health.
Well, there was to some extent, um, not to the extent that we have knowledge and of today, but we were aware that there was people that had issues like depression and addiction and similar kind of things. Especially addiction was a big topic because when I was a
Yep.
kid in school, this was the 70s, right? A big problem in society in Europe and in Germany especially was heroin. Heroin was the big killer of the day and the big addiction drug of the time. So there was a lot of good education done around drugs, addiction in general, and other similar and possibly related or correlating mental health issues, right? So that was something that I gotta say the education system in Germany did right. They didn't have any like programs, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving or those kind of stuff, but they provided you with relevant information and facts and stuff like that, so you could actually learn, instead of indoctrination,
Yeah.
it was information.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's funny, since you mentioned heroin or whatever in Germany, I just sent you a link if you would like to take a look at it and maybe pop it up. This is, I guess, something that just happened in the state of Oregon, in which they have decriminalized small amounts of heroin and cocaine. And apparently there's another 4 states as well this election year that have legalized marijuana as well. So it's very interesting to see this kind of shift.
Well, let's bring it up here real quick. No, we don't need to view off
I'd be interested to know too, just from our viewers, now that we've had at least a year of legalization of marijuana even here in Canada, has it changed your attitudes at all towards it? Has it been better or worse than you expected? Do you think that it's still of benefit as far as to the public as a whole? What do you think could be done better? What do you think are some of the shortcomings of what we do here? I would really like to know that.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting to see because I have my own personal experiences obviously, right? And in my travels, especially in European countries where you can find very different approaches, from country to country, so you get a good variety of different approaches and see firsthand how they work. In countries that have a very similar quality of life and level of education and income, like most of the major European countries do.
Right.
Whether you're in Portugal, in France, in England, in Germany, or in Italy, or in Switzerland, or Austria, or there's generally a very similar standard of living in those countries, more or less the same.
Well,
But the thing is, you'll run into situations where Portugal, for example, that did the same move, that decriminalized all drugs, like years ago. I think probably I think it was early 2000s or late 90s, and they've had sensational success with it. Basically, when the cops find a junkie on the street or something, instead of arresting him, they take him to a rehab center. Or if he's still coherent, whatever, they provide him with like a ticket to get to the rehab center, and I think that even includes cab fare. It's like a taxi, shouldn't you just get in a cab and they'll take you to the nearest rehab detox center where you get help. No criminal record, nothing, right? Doesn't weigh down the cops, or the court system, and the people actually get help instead of being driven further away from society. What criminalization effectively does, right?
That is something that it seems that European nations do a much better job of. Looking at it as more of a social issue versus a criminal issue.
Well, shall
we say, right?
That's exactly the key point. You said it exactly there. It's only a criminal issue because we make it a criminal issue. At its heart, it's a psychological and a societal issue.
So, I would be interested to know from this ruling here in Oregon that has happened, like what these actual small amounts are. And by the way, it's cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine and other drugs apparently.
And cocaine, heroin.
And that's kind of scary. I've got a close connection with meth personally, not as a user, but I lost a family member to it just in the past year, and it's hard to even think that that drug in any amount would be acceptable, because I have personal losses associated with it.
Well, then let's get into detail here, because you have to be really specific. First of all, they're talking about decriminalizing, not legalizing.
Yes. No, that's true.
Huge and very significant difference, first of all.
Absolutely.
Right? It's still illegal, but you won't get a criminal record for possession alone. If you're trafficking, selling, whatever, you'll get a criminal record. So, and you'll still probably get arrested, and the stuff will be taken away, whatever, and now here's the other thing. If you're looking at the drugs that we're talking about, cocaine, heroin, amphetamine, all of those drugs are just street versions of prescription drugs that are being pushed radically by the pharma industry. And in this list, we should include opiates, because heroin technically is an opiate. Fentanyl is a heroin derivative, right? Cocaine is used in various synthetic derivatives by dentists all around the world.
Yes.
Right? And amphetamines are used by surgeons, by fighter pilots on a daily basis. Those are prescription medications that are being prescribed to millions of people around the world on a daily basis. So the problem in itself is not the substance, like whether it's heroin or it's fentanyl. You're still talking essentially about the same chemical, just the delivery system is different, and the social stigma and surrounding situation is different. Now, somebody who's let's say a prescription opioid addict will have exactly the same medical problem as a heroin addict that buys his heroin from the street dealer at the corner and doesn't get it from the government. They're both opioid addicts. They both have the same medical and social decline ahead of them. One of them is a criminal, one of them isn't.
That's very true. And
Why?
that's one thing that certainly rose significantly during the pandemic is the amount of opioid-related deaths. To me, this and like going back to your point about decriminalization, what it looks like to me is more of an attempt to try and get rid of like mandatory minimum sentences.
Well, exactly. That's it. It's like getting rid of the criminal part that causes and makes the problem even worse. An addict who's basically struggling with, let's say, with not fitting into society, and that's why he falls to some addictive substance, whether it's alcohol or heroin or cocaine or crack or amphetamine or whatever your escape vehicle is, because that's what we're talking about, escape vehicles here, from the pain
Yeah.
of the reality that you're in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, well, exactly.
And
You know,
the choice
So-
vehicle is completely irrelevant. You choose the one that's available to you at the time, right? Your motivation is the need to get away, to escape that reality that you can't control, that's smothering you, that's choking you, that's killing you, and you just need to get away from that. And whether it's taking the pills that your doctor prescribed you for your back pains, just taking a handful of those, or taking the stuff that the guy around the corner gives you, same difference, right?
yeah, that's true.
Only in one case the government and big pharma makes a shitload of money on the prescription opioids, and in the other case it's some kind of crime syndicate or biker gang or some triad or whatever that's making the money.
Interesting. You know, something else that I'm going to forward here to you, Chris, is a link about the new recommendation for masks, which I happened to come upon just before we started the show. And
How about the 3 layers?
yeah, you know, and that's something that seems to me like, okay, now educate me, please, if you could, if you happen to know. So yes, 3 layers, 2 layers of the mask to be made of tightly woven fabric, such as cotton or linen. The middle layer should be a filter type fabric, such as non-woven polypropylene fabric. Now, if that's the case, and that's what the recommendation is, where would I find a retail outlet to actually purchase something like that, if that is the recommendation? Only asking out of a pure curiosity more than anything else.
Non-woven propylene fabric you can get on Amazon.
Okay, so
Really,
these
it's
three.
easily available. 40 inches by 3 yards, non-woven 100% propylene fabric, $18.50 at Amazon.
Okay.
I'll
Now
throw-
the question is are they available in other places like Shoppers Drug Mart or Rexall Drugs or any places like that?
Possible. I just did a quick Google search and if they're that readily available, because they're quite often used for making your own filters, for different arts projects. Let me see what else I can find here on the YouTube.
It's very surprising that you know, this got overshadowed, and that we didn't get a lot of press on this. You know, when I happened to mention it, you know, even today, when I was just before I left work, nobody had a clue what I was talking about, and
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, so like, the next question is what's going to become the standard as far as people working together and such? Like, do they have to have these masks to be able to be in compliance with what's going on, or like, does this change the landscape of like employee safety?
Well, I would say it's a further definition or distillation of what we know about masks and the virus now. And basically, saying like adding this filter layer will increase the efficiency of masks, which makes sense, from a logical point of view. Put a filter layer in there, it'll definitely improve it over just 2 layers of fabric, you know what I mean? So I get
yeah.
that, and given the fact that we have these increased numbers still going up, and people are resisting to more and more lockdown measures, it just makes sense that we try to increase the efficiency of the masks people are wearing and provide them with that information. Because this non-woven polypropylene fabric is easy to get. Like I said, they even sell it at Walmart at times. You can buy it on the roll for your DIY filter making of sorts. So it's not as exotic as the name leads you to think.
Well, one of the interesting things here too in the article, if I may quote Dr. Teresa Tam, because the first thing I thought of too is like, if this is what we should have been doing all along, why weren't we? And to that, she says there is an additional recommendation just to add another layer of protection. The science of masks has really accelerated during this particular pandemic, so we're just learning again as we go. So
Well, we're always learning, and that's how you can tell. You're dealing with a scientist and not with a religious fanatic or an idiot, because scientists will always update their models and their positions and their conclusions based on the latest information available to them. Right? As they learn more about the specifics of how this virus behaves, the more data they have, the more specific they can get in designing countermeasures. And basically saying, like, listen, we've learned some more now, so we now know it's actually worth the effort of adding that extra filter layer in the mask. The increased efficiency will be noticeable in the overall effort. So let's do this. It increases the effectiveness of the mask. Plain and simple.
If it's gonna keep us safer, then I say go for it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. If I may quote one last thing from her, she also says, "I do think that because it's winter, because we're all going inside, we're learning more about droplets and aerosols." So once again, that also goes back to updating the model that you were just referring to, as far as that's concerned. There's just, it's very interesting for the fact that when you think you know enough about the virus, you always find out more, as far as that's concerned, right?
That's the thing, when you think you know enough about something, you stop being a scientist.
Yes, and you also think that, well, nothing else could possibly go wrong, or anything like that. That's that kind of comfort, as far as not investigating further, is a bit of a detriment to our own health, so to speak.
Yeah.
To not want to dig into it and understand it a bit further, versus just the headlines, right? Because the information is out there, but you do have to make an actual effort to be able to find out for yourself. It isn't always just going to be covered in the first article that you come across on the internet.
No,
and
exactly.
we all know that the sources of stuff like that too can range from being reputable to non-reputable. So once again, it's also the whole process of filtering out what's scientifically true and what's not.
Very, very true. I mean, like I said, there's always easy ways to tell a scientist from just a propaganda or a conspiracy theorist. The scientists will always realize how little they know about the whole thing, and that what they know is only a fraction of what there is to know. So they'll always be very cautious in making absolute statements. They'll always open with disclaimers or something like, based on current understanding or based on available data or from what we know currently. That's always something any respectable scientist will do, because they're fully aware they could learn something new the same day that completely changes what they know and forces them to kind of completely reevaluate their position in everything they've known and learned so far. And a good scientist will do that, and will come out saying, hey, guess what? We were wrong. We just learned something, and this is actually, what it looks like that it is now, given on the latest data.
And that's something that, and this is the last I'm going to say about anything to do with the election or anything like that, I promise. But that is one thing, too, that really bothers me about Trump. It's the fact that he's like, well, Dr. Fauci, he's been wrong about many, many, many things. It's like, well, it sounds to me like you don't understand the process of what he has to do.
He does.
To me.
He He has no clue what science is, and he doesn't understand that science is actually a process and not an entity.
Yes. He just thinks that it's just definite answers, right? As far as yes, no, that's it. Yeah. And that there's no maneuver for anything that might, mutate, shall we say, as far as the results.
You know what I think about absolutes? Only Sith Lords use absolutes.
Yep.
people, I don't trust people that use absolutes like the greatest, the best, because that is just wrong. You can never be the greatest, the best of anything, especially if you have a limited reference field.
Now, I didn't see your picture when you did that. Did you happen to do it like, the greatest, the best? You know?
No, no.
Like he would?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually was clenching my cigarette and my lighter to avoid doing that. Doing what I now...
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. I actually refer to that now as the handcuffed jazz hands. Where he does like the...
Well, it's almost like he needs to have the sippy cup anyways, because, I don't know if you ever seen him take a drink of water from a glass, but it's kind of like,
Yeah, it's entertaining, to say the least.
It's funny. Anyways, enough about that shit, man.
Yeah.
I do see that it is almost 9 o'clock. And, Chris, what do you think we want to talk about next week?
Oh, let's see if the world still exists next week, as we know it.
Oh, come on now. I think we know that the world's still going to exist next week.
What date is Wednesday next week? I don't even know.
It should be, the 11th? It should be Remembrance Day, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, because I have a gig that day, actually.
Oh, okay. And plus, you're in the middle still of moving, so that might be a tricky one.
As well,
but,
yeah. And the day
okay.
And the day after, on Thursday, I have a prep. But I still should have internet in my place. So, yeah.
Well, whatever the case.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. If either we can do a show or we can't, and we'll have to skip a week, or you'll have to do one on your own.
Yeah. I could do that if needed. But I mean, it's always good to hang out and catch up with your friends, like Chris and I are doing. I mean, yeah, we talk on and off during the week and stuff, but having this amount of time just to hang out with each other and stuff like that is kind of key, especially now, right? I mean, we're still not out of the woods as far as this pandemic thing is concerned, and so we have to limit our our contacts and who we see every day. And every single time you end up running into somebody that you haven't seen in a month, it feels like it's years, And I just know there's just so many people right now that I miss that I can't just wait to work with again.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, and it's like this isolation, right? It's funny because normally, we're really close when we work, and then we don't see each other for months or even years, and then we work together again on some other show, and it's like we never. There was no time in between, You just pick up where you left off.
It's our industry is very unique that way. It's almost like having your best friend with you the entire time, and then years go by, but as soon as you're together for even like a couple seconds, you're right back at that place that you were.
Yeah, well,
the last time you saw that person.
I think it's kind of like we're living dual timelines. It's like there's a certain schizophrenic element to it. We have our work life, and it's especially evident with touring people. You've got your tour family, and you don't see them for months or years on end, and then you get on that bus again, and it was like you got off that bus yesterday. So basically the events in that timeline daisy chain directly, and the time you spent outside of that let's call it the touring timeline, is completely non-existent in that timeline. It plays no role. While in the other world, you have these gaps where you're not there, where you're on the road, and then you come home, and you have this civilian timeline, for lack of a better word. That is completely disconnected from your touring family in a way.
Yeah.
You usually don't go hang out and have beers or whatever with these people, if you're not on the job.
Well, that's just it. Like, if you're doing that, it's because you just got off the job, right? You're not making a specific plan to get together with these people.
That's what I mean.
When you're already off, so to speak, right?
It's like two worlds that exist parallel but never really intersect.
Yeah, you're right. That's why it's weird if you ever have one of those friends that actually crosses both thresholds.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like sometimes it's weird to see the worlds kind of collide. But yeah.
Oh well, that's interesting. So I was editing a video the last 2 or 3 days for this Remembrance Day show, and I was working with a lot of like B-roll footage with like very emotional imagery, you know, from like veterans and people being deployed and stuff like that, and it was emotionally really taxing, kind of looking at all that footage and picking out stuff that would fit to our video that we could use, and at the same time keeping in mind that this video is going to be viewed by PTSD victims, right, and sufferers.
Wow.
So I had to be really, really careful about what kind of imagery I choose, so I wouldn't trigger them and set them off again, right?
That's a huge responsibility.
Yeah. So the
I
last
can't. Wow. I don't know if I would have the courage to be able to do that personally. Still be
Yeah.
able to fit within the guidelines you're probably given.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, since I'm directing this video, and it's largely my creative vision that decided the storyline and the look and stuff like that of the video. I had quite a bit of freedom and advanced trust by the client, who's the artist, basically. And we kind of sent him after we got done this afternoon, we sent him the rough cut, you know, with a few elements that we're going to be shooting on Friday still missing. And he called me up like an hour or so after I got home, just to let me to say thank you, kind of for reminding him what this whole thing was all about, just based on the imagery, you know.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and incredibly powerful by the sound of it. I would like, if it's not a breach of trust or anything like that with the client, I would love to see it sometime.
Well, it will be live streamed on what looks like most likely YouTube on Remembrance Day. I don't know on which channel or site yet. It's it'll be a charity kind of thing for the Bellwood, which is basically a cared place for PTSD victims and the vets and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So it's it's kind of one.
Should we?
Should
we not end up doing the show next week? It's important then now, probably just to put that out there that you know, to please take the time to you know, show your respect to the war veterans and those that are currently in the armed forces.
Yeah.
You know, here in Canada, you know, we're all over the world, whether that's in peacekeeping capacity or in other capacities, and you know, these people really deserve all the respect you know, that we can possibly give them.
Yeah.
They do us a service that that none of us have the courage to do.
That is true, and they, you know, they bear a load that most of us can't even fathom what it means, you know, to
Absolutely.
and the
Absolutely.
things that they bring home with them that they can't leave there on the battlefield and stuff, you know, it's mind blowing the sacrifices these people have made.
Well, their sacrifices are, you know, what allows us to do stuff like this.
Exactly, you know, and so yeah, like.
Right.
So I was like really honored when I was approached to do this video, and I'm sure I'll be allowed to, you know, to publish where you can watch it when it's going to be streamed on the 11th. Right now they're talking about streaming it twice, once again for the West Coast with like 3 hours delay.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
So they can have it at like 11 o'clock or whatever it is as well.
Well, it's becoming too that you know, Remembrance Day was originally done for our World War I veterans, and as time goes on, there's less and less of them. Just, you know, based on the amount of years it's been. So now it's been more focused on World War II veterans. But
well, you know, that's the thing. We're always making new veterans. You know, as we're always
absolutely we are.
As we're always getting drawn into military conflicts around the world. You know, whether because we have to support our allies or similar kind, or UN task forces, or what the case may be, you know, peacekeeping forces.
It doesn't have to be a world war for it to be important.
Exactly, you know, like these guys are putting their ass on the line for us. You know, they're experiencing horrors that no human being should ever have to experience. You know, and for us, right? And we got to keep that in mind, and we got to respect that, you know, and keep that in mind when we deal with them, that they're carrying a load that they brought with them from whatever conflict they were in, and that load doesn't come off.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know?
No kidding. There is no return back to normal.
No,
Really, in a lot of respects. I mean, there can be adjustments back to society, but if you know the things that they see and everything like that, you're right. You know, they'll never be what one might consider normal again.
Yeah,
I mean, that all depends on your definition, but still.
Yeah, you
when
just
you
can't,
see some shit like that, you're never gonna come out the same as you were on the other side.
Yeah, you just can't unsee or unexperience certain things. You know, you'll be changed forever. I mean, we're always changing based on our experiences in life. That's I mean, that's normal evolution. But these kind of horrors that they experience, you know, they have such a profound impact because a lot of it you cannot process and file away. Like most experiences that we have in our life, you know, we experience them, we process them, we learn something from it or not, and then we file them away as memories, basically, right? But if that processing is impossible because the chunks are just too big, the load is just so crushing that you have no handhold, you know, to actually attack it, to get control over it, to process it, then you're just going to keep carrying it around with you, and it's gonna control whatever you try to do.
Yep, and another part of that too is that, you know, which some people may disagree with me on, but I firmly believe that when it comes to PTSD, you don't have to be only a veteran to experience that.
No, not at all. I mean, it's most well known in veterans, but literally anybody who's experienced severe trauma, and it could be a car accident, it could be
abuse,
you know,
could be anything when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's basically any kind of experience that is so overwhelming to you that you just can't process it and file it away. Right? That trauma just stays with you.
Yep.
And you can't get over it. You can't process it. You can't digest it. So it keeps on and on influencing your life in ways that you have no control over.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And so, hey, if you're out there and you're listening, you know, remember to put those damn poppies on, man. You know, and then give. You know, don't just you know hope that you get one for free. Actually, make a donation, okay? You cheap bastards. Come on. So you know, it's important, and you know, and it's important to remember too. It's just exactly what these people do for us.
Yep, and what they have done already, you know. And continue to do so on a daily basis. You know, it's like they deserve a lot of respect. They really do. So
they really do.
Yeah, that's my support to the troops and veterans and all of the other heroes out there. Right? Good. Well, so much for the preaching part.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. I guess maybe that was just the mood of the show today, okay?
Yeah, well, it's one of those days, right? Like I said, the last couple of days for me have been emotional roller coaster working on this project, and it's not over yet. Like on Friday, I think we'll be shooting some actual veterans in with a flag raising ceremony kind of thing. So that'd be interesting. See what happens, see what they have to say, get some of their stories.
And yeah, it would be good to hear, that's for sure. So you know, I look forward to whether it's next week or the week after, hearing about that experience from you, and maybe touching just reviewing back on that. But I think for now, unfortunately, Chris, I got to get going because my phone's been going crazy for about the last 15 minutes, so I don't know what the hell's happening. But something's on fire somewhere.
Okay, yeah, sounds fine to me. I would say, yeah, we got a good day, and we can call it a day. I will,
okay.
And I will remind everybody, like, subscribe, click that little notification bell so you get informed when we have a thing. Join our Discord, email us, leave us information, comments, you have it. it's your interaction that's going to change how this channel develops in the future. And on that note, anything else to add, Steve?
No, just keep well, not really. Keep fighting the good fight. Remember that there is goodness out there. And until next time, hey, we'll see you on the other side.
Yep, keep humping and...
Keep humping.